guys, this is Heather with Creativity by Heather BE. Welcome back to my channel. So today I am showing you 5 cards, 1 kit from an amazing limited edition Kindred stamps kit. And this stamp company, they do a lot of pulp culture and fandom, and they do legal representations, so they're not doing any copyright infringement or anything like that. So due to that, you're going to see that in this video, I'm not going to refer to some of these characters that we know copyrighted by those names. I'm going to refer to them as other things. So I encourage you to check out their website. On my blog, I do have a link excuse me, that will give you 10% off your first order. They have amazing products. So this was a limited edition box, and you can see there we got sequins, paper. This is a stencil that I actually used some deco foil gel on, and I'll show you a couple of those card panels later on. And you got a giant stamp set with this. It had tons of little heroes, and it had multiple sentiments, a lot of great family sentiments on here. So what I did ahead of time is I stamped all of these out and colored them with my Copic markers, and I will have all of the colors listed below. So this one here, we're going to call him Big A. We're going to call him Resource Man, the red and gold one. This is the man with the hammer, the man with the hammer's brother, and the big green guy. So you can clearly see who we're speaking about, but those are the names I'll be referring to them. Great, very large stamps in the set. So the first card, I wanted to create a Z-fold card. So what I did is I basically just took a card panel that I had, and it's already scored in half. So it's already scored at 5.5. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take it and I'm going to score it at the halfway line again. So it's going to be right at about 2 1/8 is where we're going to score it. And I'm sorry, this is scored at 4 3/4. So it's scored at 4 3/4, and then I'm going to score it at 2 1/8. And what you're going to do is, once you score it, you're going to fold that first panel back just as if you were folding up a card panel, or excuse me, a card base. And this is Nina 110. And then you're going to fold and score again the other score line. And now you can see you have that Z fold. I would suggest using an 80-pound weight would work for this also, just because it will fold a little easier and kind of stay over. So what I used, we're going to do some foiling here. I used a 1/2-inch score tape, and I put 4 rows. So what I want to do here is I want to rotate the foil. So the foil I'm using is by Gina K, and it's Radiant Red and Brilliant Blue. So I'm going to rotate this and do red, blue, and then have the white in the middle. And so I'm going to do all of this and then go back in, and I'll show you what we're going to add to the front to kind of, that opens up. If you've never seen a Z-fold card, they're so simple to make, and they're a lot of fun. It kind of gives your card something that's unique. So I'm just adding the foil, and this is one way that you can foil without having to use a laminator. And I'm going to use this technique again in the 4th card. And this one, I decided to run it through the laminator just to see. I had never run one like this with the adhesive through the laminator, so I decided to run it through just to see, and it came out the same. So if you don't have a laminator, this is a great way to be able to foil. This score tape is very sticky, and you can see there, once I put everything off, how shiny it looks. So if you put the foil on the score tape and then just use your bone folder, as you'll see, like I said in card number 4, you can use foils without having any type of heating element. So I'm going to score it again. You want to make sure you score these really, really well to kind of keep the card together. And there you can see the beautiful foiling effect that this gives. I love working with foil. So I wanted to create Big A's shield. So what I did is I took, but I needed it to be big enough to fit on my Z-fold card. So I took some nesting dies from Lawn Fawn, and these are the stitched ones, and I'm going to cut off the stitch. So what I did is I die cut the first one, and then I drew a pencil line on the inside of that die. So I'm going to go through, and then I'm going to lay the next one in the stacking series, and I'm going to draw the inside of that line. So I'm going to line the outside line up with my last one and draw the inside. I'm going to do the same thing. So there you can see now I've got the colors for Big A's shield. Excuse me, guys. And I cut off that stitch because I didn't want the stitch to show. And then I just took my Copic markers. I believe I used R27 and R29 for the red and B000 for the white area. And then I covered it in Nouveau Glaze and I let it dry overnight to give it that shine. So you can see once I place it on there, you're going to kind of have a half fold, and whatever, I'm going to hide my sentiment behind that. And I'm going to add a little Big A back there, so he's kind of hidden. And I am going to lay it down and just do a light pencil line so I know how far out my sentiment can go. I don't want it to extend over the little shield. So I'm going to use my Misty, and on this one I just decided to put in "Have a Super Day." So it could be for a birthday, it can be an encouragement, you know, whatever occasion for that day they needed. And for my sentiments on most of the cards, I just stamped them with black ink. And this one, I believe I used the Brutus Monroe Raven ink, and I'll have everything linked below, all the products, as well as on my blog. So now that I have my sentiment, all that's really left is to just add Big A on and his little shield. Oh, I am going to erase my pencil line, and this is one of those very inexpensive tools that you should have in your craft room. This eraser is fantastic. It erases so easily. I'm a teacher and I actually keep some in my classroom for my kids, and they are wonderful. They don't tear your paper. They work great. So I am using that same heavy score tape, and I only taped up half of his shield. Now I kind of got it moved down a little bit more than I wanted, but I was afraid it was going to tear the foil, so I just left it alone. So it's a little off-centered, but quite frankly, the recipient probably won't really notice it. And I'm going to put Big A back there, and I did lift him up with some foam tape, 3M foam tape, and there's our completed card. Very simple, but that Z-fold and the foil added to it just makes it look like you put so much more effort into it. So that is card number 1. For card number 2, I decided I wanted to do a shaker card. A lot of the shaker bits came in, and so we're going to use Natural Resource Man for this one. So I colored him, once again, off camera. I'll have the colors listed below. And I had a die in my stash that came from another superhero kit, and I just die cut through my card panel and then some of the pattern paper that came with the kit, and to make the shaker card. So, and I also cut a small piece of acetate, and you don't have to have like a pad of acetate. You can use the acetate that comes with your stamps. And I cut it and used some strong adhesive to put that on the back. So now I have my acetate, my panel, and my pattern paper over top. So now what I need to do is I like to take my 3M foam tape and I double it up when I do a shaker card if I do it this way. So all of those strips there have been doubled. So I just pull a piece off the roll and double it up and cut it. And that just gives more room for the shaker bits to move around. Another great tip if you have never made a shaker card before is to use whatever anti-static tool you have and run it along the inside of the panel to get rid of any of that stickiness, and also the acetate. That will stop your shaker bits from sticking to the side. So if you've made a shaker card and you have a hard time with that, your shaker bits kind of stick to the side and so they don't really shake in the center, try that tip. It will really help you. And I like to add my little shaker bits in and then kind of look to see from the other side how many more I need. And I am going to, there's a piece of it laying right there, a small one, but I'm actually going to cut out a full panel. That is the Tonic mirrored cardstock. This cardstock is so beautiful. I have it in red, silver, and gold, and you'll see the gold in a later card. I had picked this up, Tonic sells it on their site, and I'll have it linked below. I actually saw it at one of my local craft stores, and I had to have it. I just saw Christmas cards with this. So I decided to cut a full panel, excuse my head from getting in the way, and instead of just using that little one, because this card already had a lot of bulk, so I didn't want to put that one down and then add it on, so I just decided to just do a full panel. And it also kind of gave a nice little edging when you look through the side of the card. And there's a shaker card, very simple. So off camera, I used a piece of Lawn Fawn Black Licorice, and I just heat set the sentiment in Brutus Monroe Alabaster White, and it's Thanks for Saving the Day is the sentiment that I use. I just cut a little fishtail on the end, and then I'm going to adhere our little resource man using a piece of the foam tape, just one, not doubled. And then you'll see in the pictures, I also added some little puffy stars that I had in my stash over to the corner just to give it a little bit more. And that's card number 2. Very simple, so cute, great for any little hero fan in your life. Okay, card number 3. Let me do some explaining with card number 3. That is supposed to be a night sky. It did not come out the way I wanted it to. Adding the clouds helped. So this is what I decided. I live in Houston, and in the summertime, we've had it the past couple weeks ago, we had some in the June. We get these huge Saharan dust storms that come across the Atlantic and end up in Houston, and they make the sky really kind of dusty and gray looking. So our little 3 heroes here, they are standing in Houston. That's what I've decided, because this background just can't be explained any other way. So what I'm going to do is from another stamps that I had, I cut out 4 of the buildings, and I just stamped them in black ink and then used my Copic to do the little yellow for the lights. And I'm kind of doing a city skyline here. Of course, this is our Houston skyline in the dust. And I'm going to put the Man with the Hammer, Big A, and Man with the Hammer's brother down on here. And this is actually going to be a birthday card. So the 2 skylines in the back, I just used regular Lawn Fawn adhesive and tape down, or excuse me, glue down. The ones in the front, I did actually give them some dimension and use some 3M foam tape for those. So I'm going to stamp out my sentiment, very simple, have a super birthday, and I am doing that in black, just right above that skyline to kind of hide some of the dustiness. Also, my skyline is raised here, so a little tip when you're using your Misty, the ink gets, typically when the ink pad gets around the other parts of the sentiment, I don't worry about it, but because my buildings were raised, I wanted to get rid of that because it would have put that line of ink right on top of those 2 raised buildings. So here I'm adding Big A down, the Man with the Hammer, and then his brother is going on the other side. So once again, aside from the coloring and the awful ink blending, very simple card. It didn't come out quite as bad as I thought it would. That skyline is just awful though, those colors. Okay, so card number 4. For this one, I use the Big Green Man, and this is where I'm going to show you how you can use your foiling with just score tape, and this is a 1/4 inch score tape, very thin. So I'm just going through and I'm going to lay these down at a diagonal. And then I'm going to use Wow Fab Foil Purple foil and actually lay it over the lines. And I'm just going to use my bone folder, and I'm not going to heat set this at all. So don't feel like you can't do foiling if you don't have a laminator, because you can. This is a great way that you can do it. So I'm just peeling off all of those strips. This is foil by Wow, and I like the color of it. What I don't like is the way it comes in these little squares, because what happens is you get where it's wrapped around the packaging, you kind of get where it creases the foil, and so I like the sheets better than this Wow foil. So you can see I'm just taking my bone folder, and as you push it down, you can see the lines start to come up, so you can see your image. And another tip, as you start to pull it off, if it gets stuck like this one's going to right here, just take your bone folder and go back over it again, because what that means is it just hasn't all transferred. So I just take my bone folder, and you can see it starting to appear there. And then pull it off. This next line did the same thing. So just take your time and you'll get beautiful results, and you don't need to invest in a laminator to do this type of foiling. So there you can see, just very subtle. We've got our background. And for this one, I am going to, I cut it down, and I'm using a piece of Lawn Fawn, I think it's Sugar Plum, for my cardstock for my backing. And I am going to adhere my panel on there. Oh, I did add the sentiment, and I just used regular white cardstock and I believe Versifying ink. And the sentiment on this is so cute. It says, "Sorry for what I said when I was hangry." And I thought that was cute for this little green man, or the big green man. So I adhere the panel onto the purple, but I forget to adhere it onto my panel, and you're going to see where that's going to become a problem here in a moment. So I decided to use my Action Wobbler for the big green guy, and I have two sizes. I have the large and the small, and I decided just to use one large. These are inexpensive, and they just add so much fun to your cards. So I'm just taking the big one. All you do is peel off one side, stick it onto whatever you want to wobble, and just push it down, and it's kind of like a little plastic spring. And then if you'll see how he wobbles, isn't he so cute? I just love these Action Wobblers. And then you peel off the other side and just stick it down onto your card. And it does lay down, push down flat, so it will go into your envelope, and you can see how cute he is. Okay, this is where I got into trouble, because I started adding Nuvo drops, which I like the Nuvo drops. I added Woodland Green, is what the green I'm adding here, and then for purple I added Violet Galaxy. However, I had not put this on my card base yet, so I had to let this dry, and typically I like to let Nuvo drops dry overnight because I am the one that always ends up sticking my hand in them or brushing my hand across it or messing it up. So I knew trying to put this on a panel, it was not going to end well. So in the pictures, or on a card base, in the pictures, it's actually just the panel. It is adhered to a card base now. So that's our card. Very cute. I love the foiling and the Nuvo drops, and this green guy is just so cute. Okay, card number 5, our last card. So for this one, I used some of the foiling that I showed you in the beginning before it had been foiled. So I used the Gina K gold sequence foil for the stars. This was one of the shapes in the stencil. I love these falling stars. And I actually have it flipped upside down here. And so I decided I didn't want the characters to cover up the little mini stars. And because I'm using the man with the hammer and his brother, I decided to use the sentiment, and I am going to white heat emboss this. And it says, "Some people don't believe in heroes, but they haven't met." And then on the inside, I showed you earlier, and I'll show you again, I just stamped out my brother. And so I thought this was a cute brother card, considering these two characters are brothers. So this one, I thought that was a great sentiment to use. So I'm going to adhere this to my card base, and I am going to end up using some of the gold mirror paper from Tonic here. I used the red earlier for the shaker card, so this one I'm going to use the gold, and it just really made that deco foil pop. I loved having this as kind of some edging. This paper is wonderful, and it's not that expensive. I think it's like $6, $7, and you get maybe 5 or 6, 7 sheets. But it's regular size, so you can do a lot with it. So I am going to adhere this one to my card base. And now I'm just going to add my little characters on. So the man with the hammer is going to go up kind of to the left, and then his little brother will go down on the right. I guess it's his little brother. I don't know. Maybe it's his older brother. I'd have to ask my daughter. And I would tell you, to color these characters, I did a lot of research online looking at different pictures, and the brother was probably the hardest because his attire is a lot of green and black, but it's kind of mixed together. So, when you're coloring things like that, don't be afraid to look online to get inspiration. So there's the outside, and there you can see the brother that I did on the inside. So that is card number 5. I hope you enjoyed these cards. Please check out Kindred stamps. They just offer some amazing stamps that'll really take you back to your childhood. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.